Good evening, folks. Welcome to Here's the Deal. Man, we got a jam-packed show for you tonight. I got two ladies with me this evening. We're going to be talking a little bit about Williams County and what's going on with the school board and different things like that. And then we're going to move into some of the stuff with the data center outside of Williston. And so with that, I'm going to bring my guests on. I got two guests tonight. One, she's out of Williston. Her name is Dawn Hollingsworth. And then the host of Common Sense Uncensored, Kit Brenan, is joining us. So with that, good evening, ladies. How are you?
Good. Thanks, Shiloh.
How's it going? Are you guys enjoying this nice summer weather?
It's beautiful out.
I could use a little more rain. I know the farmers will probably say turn off the tap, but a little bit more up north there would be good.
Yeah, I agree. We're, we've been pretty lucky this summer so far, but we could use some more rain here too. So things are starting to dry up, but
yeah, water's a premium.
Isn't it though? We're going to be talking about that. So, well, with that being said, Dawn, I'm gonna kind of turn it over to you, and let's talk about what's going on with the school board and what's going on in Williams County.
Well, it's never a dull moment here, I can tell you that. Between corruption and all kinds of malfeasance that goes on here. I know, Kit, you love that word, and we got all sorts of it here. Just a little bit kind of a background of, why or where we're coming from. Originally, just like any other community, time goes on, things happen, things change. Here we had seen a lot of different things happening at a really fast pace. All of a sudden, the governor's coming to our community, requesting school boards between Williston District 1 and Williams County District 8. Oh, you need to come down to the Capitol. We're going to have a conversation. And it wasn't a request. It was more or less a demand. You need to come down. That was in like April of 2020. Or excuse me, was it? I think that was 2020. But anyway, he had first came out here in August of 2019, and he had made comments about, and he had invited all school boards within Williams County, come sit down, let's have a conversation. And more or less the conversation was, we need to work together. You need to make sure you're a unified group. And he made very specifically clear that was Williston District 1 and Williams County number 8. But he utilized that platform also as a bigger picture for transportation changes, economic development changes, law enforcement, all kinds of different things. And it's like, okay, well, why do you need to come here and talk to school districts? What's going on? What's the bigger picture here? Needless to say, time goes by. Bills are changed by legislation in order for reorganization to happen, in order for land transfers to transpire. Then, in the midst of all of these things happening on those levels, and at the same time, you have at a local level, you have all of a sudden people losing the ability to speak. You have hostile takeovers and extortion going on, literally extortion of, well, in order to have high school students from District 8 or just in general high school students to attend the high school here in Williston, District 8 has to pay Williston $3 million for, access to have those students there. Is this not an open enrollment state? Hasn't it been that way for some time? In the midst of, they were trying to put on an addition to the high school. And it was our fault that they were overcrowded. But yet, stating fire marshal, the fire marshal said, we're not in compliance because we're overcrowded. That's not one word of overcrowding or occupancy was in violation. It was their own violations of putting boxes underneath stairways and blocking exit ways, but they use the platform how they so choose. And long story short, so you're fighting those little battles. You have the big picture battle going on. Amongst the people, there were many of us whom were doing research, who were trying to speak up, bring all of these things forth and say, hey, you're not telling all the truths, and you're manipulating all of these things that are actually transpiring.
Well, just if I could, at this point, who are the ringleaders in this going on at this point?
So you have everyone from school individuals. So at the time, you had the leadership on the Williston District 1 school board. So you had Joanna Baltus, you had some other board members there. You had Dr. Thake, who was the superintendent at the time. You had Williams County 8 school board, which was Chris Junt, Kyle Renner, Sarah Williams, a bunch of people, John Casmer. These people were speaking these things and telling the community these things. The very people that the majority of those that I just said are on this current board right now and spilling more of the same thing, which we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then you also had, you had the mayor, Howard Klug. He was speaking on the reorganization pieces and land transfers and how this needed to be moved forward, even though they were violating law. They didn't care. They had an agenda to push because the governor told them. It came down from the governor's office. This has to happen. Comment that was made at that one meeting in August of 2020 or 2019 was, well, folks, we're very blessed, or whatever his verbiage was. I'm paraphrasing, but it was, we have multi-million-dollar projects and it's a wonderful thing, but I was just in Canada. So change that M to a B, the billion-dollar projects. We got to bring that in here now. So in order to do that, Williston is going to set the precedent for the entire state of North Dakota. Well, yeah, we've seen what that precedent is, and it's pretty much a takeover, and everyone is shushed, stomped on, lied to, manipulated, you name it.
Well, the other problem that you faced was the fact that there was so much going on behind the scenes, because you had someone that the state brought in as a consultant, and as a marketing person, I've been brought in as a consultant, and the first question I always ask somebody is, okay, do you have a preformed answer that you want, or do you want to know the truth? Because I can give you either.
I remember
if there's an agenda, guess what they want?
Right. I remember when you said that on the interview that you two had on your show.
So we had.
It's easy to manipulate the data. It's very easy.
Now, mind you, some of this, I was still on the school board as acting chair for a time frame till towards the end of my tenure. But
which school board?
Williams County 8.
8. Okay.
So I was one voice, and you had 4 other people who, of course, were controlling the board, not me. I was trying to control physical agendas and talk to people and tell truth, but yet behind the scenes, these people are doing all these other things and working together. Along with, there was a secret meeting, prior to all of this 100% taking place with the county superintendent, Jody Johnson. At the time, again, Joanna Baltus, Dr. Thake, Sarah Williams, Chris Junt. They had all met down at the county office meeting, having a conversation about who knows what. I don't have privy to that, but the simple fact is the understanding was they were having a conversation about school business, not in public. There was no meeting. There was no announcement. There was no nothing. They're just off meeting, so which ended up, someone had seen that, taken pictures, and they had to address that and apologize for their behavior.
Apologize. Excuse me,
Yeah.
but big darn
It
deal.
doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. Oh shoot, where was I?
Well, the thing is with this thing is that they have an agenda. The people don't know what the agenda is. They're doing behind the scenes meetings where people don't have the ability to not only be informed, but to speak.
Right.
You are basically ousted from the board.
Well, not only that.
Yes, I was. Totally.
You were literally removed because you didn't follow the plan.
Right. That's
Walking my
kind of what
permanent
they did
job.
with their legislative reorg is because they reorged some of those legislators out, like Sebastian Airtel comes to mind when you talk about stuff like that too. But
gerrymandering for the legislators, and they're combining school districts and stuff to get what they need done, and it's
right.
all done, and the people have no say and no control.
So,
Even if you do show up to a meeting, though, like when I was city commissioner here in our little old town of Ray, they had one guy come in and was always kind of raising heck about different things. Not saying that he wasn't wrong in what he was saying, it was how he went about it. But they used that as an excuse to cut out public comment.
Everybody.
And you see that going everywhere.
So I recall we were talking about individuals coming in to manipulate certain things, and especially numbers. That was a big deal. So it wasn't the state that brought Paul Stremick in. It was the two districts. They had agreed to bring Paul Stremick in, Williams County 8 and Williston 1. They both agreed to hire him on for the reorg piece and create this study. So he created this study and put numbers together. Well, he did the study before I think the whole reorg piece was taking place. But what's funny about that is people have to understand, when I was still the chair, he sent over here's how I can do things. Here are the bullet points, all of the things that I can do and address. You know, I wanted all of them to be addressed because it had before, during, after, all of the pieces that were pertinent for the public to be aware of to make a educated decision. The board at the time overruled me and only said, no, we want A, B, D, and F. We don't want A through G or A through H. The current stuff and all the other things don't apply. It doesn't matter because they were going towards reorganization.
Right.
So the people didn't hear all of the other facts and know that if they would have stayed with the current, there would have been more than enough money. We would have built a full school like Kit and I had explained with our interview. There were full plans for everything, going K-12, a new school, a piece for high school, you name it. It was all there. We had a plan. It was in writing and it was a good deal, but nope. You know, that wasn't an option for the state and, you know, for the governor's office or any of the locals. But in the midst of that too, people need to understand, as I was talking about some other things, legislation. So we have legislators like Brad Beckedahl and Pat Heddlestead. These individuals, their names are on the bills of things that were changed in order to have reorganization and voluntary land transfers take place. That was not in law. They did those last minute pieces, and how is it that all of a sudden they can get that passed? Boom, those things were passed, no questions asked. So in order for all of this bigger picture to take place, you know, and then you have city officials, you know, and you have county commission, those two have to work on the local levels of making that big picture, that whole community cycle, you know, economic development, transportation, human and health services, all of those things. So you have those involvement too that are just following along, doing what they're being told to do. And in the midst of it, the people keep finding more and more and start asking more questions and going, there seems to be certain things going on and there seems to be monies and questions, and are people getting paid? Well, then you start coming across things and go, I think people are getting kickbacks.
No, that wouldn't happen, would it?
Well, the biggest problem is the fact that, you know, they know what the plan is. In fact, Don, you were even told this is coming. You can't stop it. This is part of a bigger long-term plan. And no matter what you say,
Yep.
It's coming. I mean, you are literally told that. Basically, save your breath. So
Yep.
what are you supposed to do when someone says literally, sit down, shut up, we're coming? And the plan that you guys had put together, you had budgets, you had land purchased, you had all this other stuff set aside, and it was going to lower your property taxes.
Yeah.
This plan that they've got now, your taxes are through the roof.
Yep. Oh yeah, we've seen just an astronomical hike in taxes. And of course that's the rural. The rural community saw just a horrible increase. Well, because who managed the money properly? Who managed the education properly? Who managed all of these things properly? And we're moving in the right direction. The rural community was, the rural school district was. Well, we need their money. We need all of this, and they're going to make us look good, and we're just going to take over. And so they did. Mm-hmm. And, like we say, when it comes to corruption and all those other things, and if you need to change a community, where are you going to start? Well, you got to start with schools. So that's exactly what they did. That's how they did it. And there's so many different examples. I mean, there's just oodles and oodles, but I've got to.
Don, the best example would probably be what you guys found out with the LLCs, because the LLCs are involved a lot with the land transfers and with purchases. And if you have a preconceived idea of something coming in, you're going to swoop in and you're going to buy land or businesses possibly that is going to be a developed area in what is currently an underdeveloped area, and you're going to get it for a great price. And then people are going to go, boy, what an idiot. Why would you buy there? And then bingo. So, I mean, you saw a lot of that going on.
Oh, absolutely. And when you have the very individuals who are in control of the bidding and policy and procedure and all of those things, and they're having, a person can only assume that they're having behind the scenes meetings and conversations, which, at one level, the county level, we do have written proof of that had transpired, in open record. And then all of a sudden they come to public meeting and there's never discussion. It's only a vote. That's it. That's all that transpires. Well, I'm sorry, if you're not being corrupt and you're being honest, then why aren't you having the conversation in public? But that's not transpiring. And that hasn't for a very long time. That's at the city level. That's at the county level. That's at the school board. It's all of these pieces.
Well, and we're seeing a lot of things where we're seeing individuals that own multiple, sometimes 20, 30 or more LLCs. And a lot of what they're doing is they're purchasing something with one LLC, selling it to another LLC that they also happen to have ownership or whatever in. And then they're allowing that to go bankrupt. They're not making
Don't forget, before, they have it from their one LLC, then they're selling it to another one, which, yes, they have their name on too. But don't forget about the increase, the hike that they're putting on that and collecting that money. And then they're defaulting on it and filing bankruptcy. So they've collected money and yet not paid a penny for the property.
And then if they're bankrupt, what do you think the odds are if somebody else swoops in to buy said property that they're going to get tips, tax incentive financing to actually go in and redo that property, where in the initial purchase, you might have had to do the development on your own.
But what's really fun too is we're finding that LLCs are being created. So you've got title company LLCs, you've got other different property management LLCs, you've got contract LLCs, you've got the whole conglomerate that you would need to do this, which are usually outside, like a local title company, oh no, they've created their own pieces in order to manage properties and make sure it's legal. They've created their own LLCs of those pieces too. So they're all getting kickbacks for the very properties that they're defaulting on.
Are they school board members, county commissioners that are doing this, or?
We are finding a lot of local people are on some of these LLCs. It's quite interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
My husband just gave me a note saying, "Do you need crony capitalism defined?" Because here we are.
There we go.
And it's exactly what's occurring. And the thing with North Dakota, if you take a look at the family tree, God bless us, but our family trees don't have many branches.
Yeah.
And so you'll find that a lot of people, even in the legislature, they're all related. They're cousins, they're by in-laws or whatever. So there's a lot of what's going on is still benefiting various people that are all in the same family. Different names oftentimes, but it's all the same family. Gee, what's going on with the Bidens right now? People in the same family.
Imagine that.
Moving money around so that nothing goes directly towards certain people, but the money's still being generated and being sent through all these things. We used to call it laundering. I don't know what we call it anymore. I'm sure there's a more high-tech name for it, but I'm just saying there seems to be a lot of washing and drying going on here.
My mom made a comment yesterday. She's like, all this crap going on here. She said, good grief, it's just like Watergate. She said, it
makes
just
Watergate look like nothing.
I know. I said, yeah, Mom, it's there's never a dull moment here.
So, many times, and it doesn't really matter which guest that we have on or had on, or it all boils down to one thing in my mind. And I think we talked about that a little bit off camera the last couple of days, is getting people involved. Take, for instance, this school board in Williston. They just had another election. Now, they had, I think Williston has right around 30 to 32,000 people in it.
Yep.
And I know you two know how many people voted in that election.
1,300.
1,300. That was double of what voted 2 years ago.
Right.
At 600 people.
Yeah, but and I've come across the same thing too. People are not aware, people are not involved, and it's been that way for the longest time. And that was part of the struggles of when we were trying to tell people, hey, this is not a good thing. You've got these people saying these things. You've got the Paul Stremicks of the world, manipulating numbers to make them look, in their favor. You have all these lies and deceit and manipulation going on. And here we are now. People can't talk. People can't ask questions. They can't, nothing. And if someone speaks up in the community, as an example, Mr. Tom Simon of Trending Topics, he spoke up, he made comment, he brought things forth and questioned the superintendent. Oh my gosh, he got retaliation publicly. This is the kind of crap. And now, so like the school board, some of the things I had the bullet point here on things that they have done. Where did I have that?
It's down a little bit further, I think.
Here it is. Okay, so no authority to act on.
Oh.
So, okay, what does that mean? It means when this reorganization took place, they had to follow the reorganization plan. So anything that is in that plan, they need to follow. Okay, fine. As far as law, they have to follow that too, which is there's a reorganization law. Now, within that, there is a 5-year piece. So there is one of the statutes is regarding school board authority. Now, they do not have full authority as a regular school board does. So in that, it's pretty specific. There's not a whole lot. They have the basics of creating policy as such. They have the ability to approve budgets. They have the ability to approve contracts. Outside of that, they really don't have the authority. It's a very fine line.
Who has the authority then?
The people. And that is another statute under reorganization plan or under reorganization law in North Dakota. If they want to do more, if they want to do other things,
like transfer land,
right? Well,
that
like
should
I
have
said,
been voted on, not just done.
Right. So we have a piece of property that the school district owned that was under executive sessions, was where the discussions took place on this piece of property, over and over and over. There was some brief discussion at a committee level, but that was it. So, and those aren't recorded or anything. You got to show up and actually hear it. So people weren't aware of it. But the whole thing is, the board did not have authority to give land away. They had no authority to do so. They would have had to have gone to the people for a vote to change the plan in order to add that to the plan to give that lands away. They didn't do it. They gave the land. They committed a violation of law amongst, other pieces that they have done. So they went and created a strategic plan. Okay, well, that's not part of the reorganization plan, and they don't have the authority to create a new plan. They have to go by the reorg plan. So they created this whole new plan that they're going by, and it has given the superintendent all kinds of powers. Well, they don't have the authority to do it in the first place, to even offer power to the superintendent, but yet that's what's taking place. So again, another violation of law. Creating of the board governance. Well, that could be borderline. Is that one against the law too? Again, they're going out of their authority. They can't do that. And how they're doing that one is because they're creating a policy for board governance. Well, yeah, we know how that works.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's just a big combination of, this is what is happening. No one's being consulted. Now, I understand when you see a community that size and as few people vote, why wouldn't they think they could get away with doing whatever they want? Because who's going to kick? A few people like Dawn and a few others maybe that are paying attention, that are maybe even in the school district. Right. I'm not in the school district. I kick because it's wrong. But who's going to care what I'm saying sitting over here in Eastern North Dakota? They're going to just go, she hasn't got any skin in the game. Right. And we're just going to be watching people more and more be ignored that are trying to sound the alarm because of the apathy of the general public that seems to be just sitting there thinking that the world will take care of itself because they've got too much to do. But so do the rest of us.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, like you were saying, Shiloh, it goes back to that point of people being involved. If people aren't going to stand up, no, it's not going to change. But can it change? Can it be different? Yes. But you actually have to get off your butt, get out the door, and, especially like voting, get out and vote. Get involved.
It would also be really nice if more than 2 or 3 people, like the 3 of us sitting here, right, would stand up and take some of the heat, because a lot of us are standing in the front line and you turn around and you realize that there's nobody standing behind you.
Nobody behind you. Yep.
and I mean, if you have a group of people, there's a lot more power than if you're one person standing at the edge of the cliff going, I think we're all going to go over.
Yep. I I experienced that here in Ray with running for the public offices that I did. I was on the city commission for a while, and it was kind of funny. You know, everybody had complaints. They wanted to complain, whether they were complaining about the mayor or one of the other commissioners or the auditor or whatever the case may be. And when I needed people to show up to the meeting, they didn't even have to say anything because there was no public comment. I mean, they didn't even have to say anything.
But the body
just had to be there,
message, right? The body sitting there just doing one of these things would have been a message.
Yep. And I was just like, what do you guys want me to do? I mean, you know, same thing with the school board. We ran for school board. Joe and I did. Joe, Warren, and myself, and you know, we went and we talked to people, and of course that was when we had the 3 snowstorms right within a 3-week period, and all kinds of stuff was breaking out. But anyway, we went and talked to people. I mean, I can't tell you how many people we talked to, but there again, I think if we got 250 votes in the whole school district, we were lucky. I don't think anyone hit 100 votes. So, I mean, you can sit and you can complain all you want and pick your leaders. But if you're not going to show up, even just to show up, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, well, you know, I think a lot came about. It was bad. Apathy was bad before COVID, but I think during COVID, everybody got real used to just sitting in their house. Yeah. And the world went by, and they were told there was nothing they could do about it, and they just said, "Okay." It boggles my mind. It's not even apathy anymore; it's acquiescence, because silence is acceptance. Therefore, if I'm your leader and all you're doing is complaining, but you're not doing anything about it, then I figure you're not motivated enough to oust me. So screw you. I'm going to do what I want.
Yep.
And it's happening.
That's very much the attitude.
So I see some comments over here.
Yep.
So, you know, talking about the audit, you know, somebody mentioned giving an update on the audit. So, you know, we went through an audit. The people here in Williston, you know,
they're saying that Josh Galleon is going to be there on.
Yep. I was going to get to that.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just.
No, that's
round 2's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, many of us are aware of the state audit that had taken place already up here in Williston. It's one of the biggest that's been seen. The most violations that have been seen on any audit that the state has done. So, of course, it's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And a lot of discrepancies. So, you know, when you stop and think, here's just a little tidbit from it. And mind you, people need to understand this audit was not like a forensic piece. It wasn't a full dive in audit of every single transaction, every single thing that happens. It's only a snippet of that year is what that audit was. Now, mind you, a snippet of 1 year. Can you fathom how insane the finances must truly look over the past through now? So again, 1 year, only a snippet, to the tune of, you know, upwards of $500,000 in discrepancies, and also violation in law. There was a piece, one of the findings, actually, there was violation of law. But you look at all the rest of it and go, okay, there's quite the pattern there. You know, is that not violation in itself too? Good gravy. 900 pages of journal entries. That's insane.
But Don, you mentioned something very important. An auditor, Josh Galleon, can't prosecute. He can just
No.
show there's a violation. Someone else has to prosecute. And as you found out, trying to get somebody to prosecute some of these people for violating the law, crickets.
So going to that piece, we have, and before, I don't want to forget, but Josh Galleon, our state auditor, awesome guy. He has been very helpful in so many ways in helping us move forward in some of these different pieces and finding more information, how to go about things. He has been truly very helpful. We're super excited. He's going to be in Williston on July 18th at 5:30. So we want to make sure people know they're more than welcome. Not sure of the exact location just yet, but keep in mind, July 18th, 5:30 p.m., Josh Galleon will be here in Williston and talking to the people. That's all he's said. I just want to talk to the people, have a conversation with the real people, which is just wonderful.
So again, is that going to be at the Ark? Because they're saying that it's going to be at the Ark.
Is it? Okay. I wasn't sure of the location, but okay,
July
maybe
18th?
That's what they've got it set up for.
I just want to make sure people understand Josh can bring the information forward. We still need somebody that's going to actually take the violations of law and do something with it besides go, well, we'll just make sure we don't do it again.
Yeah.
And then they do it again anyway.
The auditor's office has been stripped of pretty much all authorities. They can't prosecute. They can't even get subpoenas on records. So no wonder why they couldn't get anything from the district as far as information. Oh, there's no documentation for this. Oh, there's no documentation for this. And, I want to say Josh had mentioned, they were literally kicked out of a room because they needed to meet. I mean, they didn't even have a place to sit and do the work they needed to here when, the auditing team was on location. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then, but I got to mention this. So there's been a lot of open records people have asked for, other constituents, groups, whatnot. We have been asking for certain things, specific things, and they're not able to supply it. It's pretty interesting. We spoke with we were informed by a local Chamleys, which is salvage and whatnot. We received information that had more or less put it out there saying, hey, FYI, usually we see 1 to 2, 3 bins, that come through for destruction. But we received 14 bins that showed up at one time. We've never seen that in the history of doing business with the district, even District 1. And we all kind of went, oh. And they said that's between 80 to 90 boxes
of documents
of documentation. And all of a sudden, it's funny how we can't get any requests fulfilled because, we don't have that. Oh, we can't find that. That doesn't exist. Oh, okay. Well, that's where it went.
What kind of requests?
So find bidding pieces for the Innovation Academy. We were questioning. We wanted to see who was on those bids, who are the contractors, show us all the pieces in the process that took place. Can't provide it. Questioning building plans, just the layout, just the general. We're not asking for actual blueprints. We're just asking for the plan that the public has seen over and over and over, on the schools, just the generalized piece. Won't provide that. Oh, that's against safety. You name it. We've been asking for all kinds of things. How much did the high school cost? What was the total project costs? Oh, well, we don't have that information. What do you mean you don't have that information? Oh, well, we'll ask. Then the AG's office was involved, and we're not sure if we have to actually ask the contractor for that or not.
How do they get paid then?
Do that? Yeah, you do. That's our money. That's our. We said yes.
Raise the mills.
Oh,
that's how they get paid.
Yeah.
Or you assess your house, or suddenly someone's house is worth $75,000 more than it was a year ago.
Yeah. I had to laugh.
That's how you handle that.
A couple of years ago, there was an older gentleman, born and raised here. Was in the Navy. He was actually down in the subs and different things. He's actually a pretty interesting man to talk to. But his house is, one of the first ones here in Ray, and I'll never forget it. Sitting in front of, I was on the school board at that time, and they had the county up here, and they're doing the tax assessment deal that they do every year, and I can't remember. It was some ungodful number that they came up with his house, that what it was worth. And he's like, it has a dirt basement. It hasn't been updated since, the 60s. And they're like, well, that's what they came up with, and he's like, I don't even have an attached garage. He just kept on naming different things, and I'm just going, oh my goodness, and the problem is, yeah, we're spending all this money, but what are we really getting out of it? The kids aren't learning.
Oh Lord, no.
There's no teaching going. I don't care what they want to say anymore. I mean, I've had go-arounds with the past superintendent here. He told me that we have to have standards, and if it's Common Core, so be it. What does that tell you? I mean, our kids are struggling. We decided, it's just, yeah. I mean, I could tell you story after story after story. Yeah, and you obviously know you were in the trenches.
20 years at a community college. So I got the kids that supposedly graduated high school. Many of my students actually had qualified to go to UND, but came to my school because they didn't want to be in a classroom with 500 of their close personal friends. Freshman year is all the auditorium classes and stuff. So I didn't have droolers just because I had a community college. But what I watched in 20 years was a traumatic decline of the ability to read, write, speak with any eloquence and whatsoever. And don't even get me started on basic math. I'm talking addition, subtraction, I mean, just the basics. I'm not even talking the algebra where they start throwing the alphabet in.
We're having to redo our kids. I mean, and they're young, and we're having to redo our, yeah.
Because they're passing them because you got close. I don't want to drive across the bridge where an engineer got close with their math.
Right.
I'm sorry, but these are who we're going to be leaving the world to. Do you want to get into an airplane with the pilot that was so close in passing his test? No, I do not.
Right. But some of this also, I will say, falls on the on the parents too, because being in the, my wife had the daycare here in town and stuff, and she's done it for 10 years and seeing different things that have come and gone. The other thing that is parents need to be accountable. The parents, and that's in the classroom. Obviously, they need to start going to the school board meetings and being accountable there too, because this is how we've lost all of this, honestly. But if there's no accountability at home, there's definitely, we can't expect it to be at the schools. Not saying that.
It's deceptive. It's deceptive, and I'll tell you why. Because I talk with people, and they go, "Well, my child is bringing home A's and B's. It don't mean a damn thing anymore." Yeah. It was funny because I gave a student once a C on a project, and I got a scathing email from her telling me how she was valedictorian of her high school class, never had gotten anything below an A in her life, yada, yada, yada. And I sat there and read the email, and I sent it back, and I said, well, sweetie, I did the check, and your graduating class was 5. So still good for being valedictorian, good for you. But I would have been a little bit more impressed had you spelled the word valedictorian correctly every time you used it in the email. So the C stands.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just the basics not there.
Right. I had a
But the
person
egos,
tell me not
oh
too
my
long
God, the
ago.
egos, they're smart. Why? Because I got good grades. Well, when the bar is below ground, you don't even trip over it. And
Right.
that's the bar for excellence.
I was told by a friend that in other countries they shoot for getting everybody to the smartest student, and here in the United States we do the exact opposite.
We do.
Whoever can test the best, that's what we want to have.
Yes, and we don't. We spend all our time catering to those who are the least. Now, if you're a kid, what do you want? You want attention, right? And if you're doing well and you're not getting attention, but the kid sitting next to you is doing poorly and getting all the attention, what are you going to do?
Gotcha. Yep.
And so it starts when they're young. And they're actually being made fun of in the larger cities. If you do well in school, you're downtrodden. I compare it to a pail full of crabs. If you go crabbing, you don't need to put a lid on the pail.
Okay.
Because if you have more than one crab in the pail, every time one tries to crawl out, the other one will reach in and pull it back down. You can have a pail full of crabs and they will never escape because they're too busy pulling each other
Pulling
back
the other
in.
one down.
And
Gotcha.
that's where we're at right now. We're so busy pulling everybody back down into the pail. Nobody can escape to excellence anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Say, do me a favor, Don. Read me that one email, would you please, where you're warned that if they don't do this thing quickly and under cover of darkness, there'll be repercussions from the people. Oh my God, we can't let the people know this is happening.
So this email goes back to August 3rd of 2020. Okay, now this email is between Jody Johnson, who was the Williams County school superintendent. Okay, so she was a superintendent for the whole county. All right, so she was a part of reorganization and all of those other pieces and helping everybody get through it. Now, the conversation, there was multiple people emailed in this whole stream. You've got Deb Camp here local. You've got Kristen Baszler, Karen Woodstead. You've got also another name in there, Allison Hicks, who was the Assistant Attorney General. Okay, so if we go and we read some of these pieces of these emails, Jody Johnson starts off and says, she's addressing Allison Hicks. Just a heads up that we will be bringing 3 voluntary property transfers and a reorganization plan to the October state board meeting. All need to be heard in October for us to stay on the timeline to get them done for the upcoming school year. All of it involves William County School District 8. If we don't get this all done in October, we won't be able to complete the reorganization of Williston 1 and Williams County 8. That is only if the state board passes the reorganization plan. Now, my thing, when I first read the first part, is like, oh, okay, so you go on to talk about it, and it's all of it involves Williams County District 8. It's funny how she pointed that out. It all involves the rural school district. Allison Hicks replies to her. Now, again, Assistant Attorney General replies, is it only reorg with Williams and Williston, or are there other school districts involved? Okay. Now, Jody Johnson replies again to her, and it's just the 2, Williston 1, Williams County 8. She goes on to say, in this response, we anticipate this plan being approved. You may be unaware, but the governor himself came to Williams County asking the school districts to work together because the anticipated influx of students into the county. But then in the next sentence, she says, there is a new gas plant being built that will employ a bunch of people when done. Furthermore, going on to talking about paperwork. For example, we are using the findings of facts for annexations as one of the documents. We were told at one time that a new document would be developed for a findings that was exclusively for property transfer process. So mind you, it didn't exist. Didn't exist at all. Even at that point, they're having these conversations about, oh, this is coming forth, this is going to happen. Public has no clue. Goes on to say, if any of this process would be delayed due to DPI not having a form ready or the legal ad for the process not being in the paper 14 days prior to the state board meetings, there would be anarchy. I can almost guarantee a call would be made to Governor Burgum by one of the representatives or school personnel. Why would he be getting a call from one of the representatives, one of the legislators, or a school representative?
Why is Burgum so invested in this? Why is Burgum so invested in this small school district, number one? Why is it so clandestine? Why do they have to have just 14 days is when the notice is? People can't get their poop in a group in 14 days, which is why it's set up that way, because we're going to slide this sucker through a cover of darkness before anybody wakes up and realizes what we've done. God forbid they find out. I mean, this is BS.
And so she ends, it concludes with, therefore, I am nervous and I am just giving a heads up because I fret about this whole thing. And I would like a heads up if I had your job. You don't need to call me back now and have a great weekend. So the weekend.
Yeah, let's give her a heads up.
Is this like on a county server or
Of course it would be county, state servers. Oh yeah, it's
and
there.
They don't think that.
So and then
hey, Stenjum's emails disappeared. Why not these, right? I mean, right. Stenjum, poof, no more emails.
So so the weekend passes, and this coming from Allison Hicks, her reply is, I know that the reorg and voluntary transfer are coming, and we'll prepare the board, which would be the state board, to consider the matter at the October meeting. Let me see. There was one other. Oh, and then the end of it is from another individual, a Jill. I don't see what her name is on here. Anyway, she sent an email to Jody and Deb regarding, I hope you both had a wonderful weekend. I did send the forms to ITD for approval on Friday. Once they get it approved, we will send them to you right away. I communicated to ITD that this is a time-sensitive matter, and they will try their best to get them approved for us.
Yeah, we'll ram those bad boys
wasn't even ready, but yet, we'll get it done. Don't worry.
Well, when it's us, we'll ram those bad boys through. Don't you worry about it, honey. I got your back. Let's just ram those through. Don't worry about the people. They're sleeping. Don't you worry about them.
So another piece, when the state hearings took place in for the reorganization and for the land transfers down at the state school board, they were the ones that we had to address. It was mentioned and it was brought up by individuals who testified stating, hello, you had a behind the scene conversation, Mrs. Hicks, with Sonia Meal, the state school board president or chair. No, that never transpired. No, we didn't have that. That was not, we just talked about legal matters. No, because it's right here from you, Allison Hicks, to good evening, Chairman Meal. I've reviewed the voluntary land transfers, and I think we should talk ahead of the hearings. I have some ideas for possible exhibits that I think are beneficial to the board for its consideration of these petitions.
Oh boy.
I want to talk to you individually first on this issue. Don't tell me that it didn't happen because we knew it did. Here's the proof. Open records again on September 30th before the state hearings transpired.
And you want to know what's going to happen? Even if all of this all comes out now, well, they'll get a stern warning or they'll have to produce my other personal favorite. I want you to go back and think about that meeting and reproduce the minutes, and then you turn them in. Oh, for Lord's sake.
Oh, but
What do
you
you
know
think?
what? Hey, Kit, you know what's so great about that? The people actually did their due diligence. We had, there was a couple of us that were trying to get the live videos from that. We received that. So there's a couple of us that have the original live videos unedited, that we have copied, and so there's a secure spot. But we also have that, and then you have the minutes that people have requested of what was written by Mrs. Allison Hicks, because she took the minutes, which don't match what transpired in the hearings at all.
For people who don't know, who's Allison Hicks?
Assistant Attorney General.
Okay.
Which is why you can't get anything prosecuted.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
Why would she prosecute herself?
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Why would she prosecute anybody else involved? Because they're going to look and go, well, Allison, you said.
Yeah,
no, I didn't. Well, yes, you did. Well, that's the problem with this. When my husband handed me the note that said crony capitalism,
well, and
these
just
people
like
aren't going to turn themselves in.
Just like here at the local level, the county hearings that transpired with the committee, the property and reorganization committee that was created here in Williams County, they were told, there was a couple of these individuals, these committee members that had spoken to myself and another individual, and more or less they stated, well, we were told to push it through no matter what. Oh, and who told you that? The state's attorney's office here in Williams County. Oh, okay. Thanks for letting us know. Yeah.
This is the problem, Shiloh.
It is, because even the sheriffs that, I remember when the elections were going on, there was different sheriffs, that we had some of those where they were basically debates and people could ask what they wanted to. And the sheriff would flat look at them and say, I don't know, I'd have to check with the state's attorney's office. They don't even know their power. They don't even know what their job description.
Because it changes. It changes from whatever someone higher up wants. That's their power. And it doesn't matter if it's legal or not.
Yeah, they take their orders.
We're in a banana republic.
Yeah,
we're living in a banana republic.
We experience this very same thing here. Like I said, Galleon was so very helpful in trying to help us, how do we hold accountability? What other steps have we not taken? So with his guidance, we learned a little bit more, and we went to the nth degree again, and trying to get every avenue covered. We have different organizations up here, different groups doing different things. I don't want to say names, but they're doing a wonderful thing. Actually, I will say names because they are doing such positive things. The Moms for Liberty here, the Williston chapter, they are amazing. They are doing so much work trying to find different things, pointing out things, throwing themselves out there, and they're being of course, they're being slandered by the very school board, individuals in this community. They're the ones slandering them. And it's awful because they're putting out truth, just like I have, just like so many of us have. The same with the Sons of Liberty group. They are successful with a recall that's coming forth. So there's a recall vote for school board members. Those up for recall are Chris Junt, Kyle Renner, and John Kasmer, the very individuals I have spoke of that have done corrupt things, that have gone against law over these years and put themselves out there. Why are they being recalled? That's why. They're not in it for kids. They're not in it for our community. We can only assume, they've got their pockets that they need to keep filled.
When you run out of facts, you go to character assassination, because unfortunately, too many people these days don't do their research, so they're not paying attention to the facts. All they care about is if somebody says you're a nice person.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately,
he's a nice guy. Oh, they're such good people.
Yeah.
No,
you want to know what? I learned something in business. I worked with a lot of nice people who were totally incompetent. I didn't ever, if I'd owned the business, I'd have never hired them. They were nice people. but they couldn't find their butt if they were sitting on a mirror. They were total morons. Nice people can be stupid too. Don't hire them.
I'm gonna love her analogies.
I'm gonna write that one down. I'm learning a lot here.
They're wonderful people. Don't vote them in.
Oh man, I need a notebook. I gotta write this stuff down.
Salt of the earth, dumber than a box of rocks. But by God, put him in charge.
You're awesome.
Heck, make him president. What the hell? Just try him out there. He can crap his pants. I'm sorry, but I'm so sick and tired of this at every level of government we have. And we used to think we were sitting in North Dakota and we were safe. And we are not. We're worse here.
Dr. Frank even said that when he was here, that we've got the worst transparency in the nation.
I believe it.
They create policy and law to continually, shush, shush, shush. You can't talk, you can't speak, you can't ask questions, you can't go away. Shush, shush, shush.
I love you guys, and I've got to go. But Shiloh, one day I'd love to come back on with you, and I'd love to talk to you about water resources and some of the shenanigans that are going on with some of the corporate farming rules that have come in. But there's been so much we've covered today that I know my head is spinning, and
I'll reach out to you soon.
The water's just not doing it anymore.
I've got next week's show covered, but I'll reach out to you and let's do this again. So
the shyness classes are working. The group therapy sessions are coming through, but Don, I absolutely love you. You are so brave, and Shiloh, we just got to keep trying to get the word out to people and let them know that North Dakota nice is not so much.
Yeah, North Dakota duped is like what Dr. Frank said. So, and I kind of agree with him. It's just,
it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. It does. It makes. I was talking with very dear friend of mine. It's like you get so mad, and you try so hard to do right. You try and put the truth out there, and you just get beaten down. And then in the midst of it, it's like, okay, I'll bounce back. I'll figure it out. But these kids are still sitting in the classroom, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. But yet,
and I taught because I wanted to.
They're for the kids.
Yes.
And yet, the ones trying to speak up are the ones that are for the kids. And
they're not.
I know.
They use that as one thing that I, right quick before we sign off here, one thing that I heard a couple weeks ago, and I don't remember what, I was just listening to some random show, and they had a guy on there and talking politics and government and different things. And he said, I don't even care about what's going on in DC anymore. He said, I tell you what, you give me all the school boards, all the county commissions, all the city commissions. He said, that's how we're going to turn this around, because
I agree.
Over the past 100 years, that's how they've done it. They've used our schools for nothing but indoctrination. That's why we got people that can't tell whether they're a boy or a girl. Pick an institution, whether it be our healthcare system, our schools, our financial system. Can you trust any of them? No. And so I'm kind of with that guy. I would at this point, I don't even care what's happening in DC anymore. We need to take our state back, our states. I mean, I think that, he's correct in saying, give me the school boards, the county commissions, the city commissions, and we'll go from there.
And don't let it overwhelm you. I mean, we're getting all this information about the feds, the Ukraine, and everything else. Start local. Do what you can. Yep. But by God, get active.
Yep. I agree.
One word. I appreciate the time, you guys, and Shiloh for doing this.
Absolutely.
This was wonderful. It was good. There was some comic relief too, Kit. Gotta love it.
It's a gift.
Let's do it again soon. I'll reach out to you
Absolutely.
guys here
We
off
should.
camera, and let's do it again soon, and we'll just build on this stuff. I mean, obviously, there's quite a bit.
There is.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even get to
there's
the
more.
tip of the iceberg. So,
All right.
You
Thank
guys-
you, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take
all
care.
right. Thank you. That was awesome. That was quite the show. I really appreciate those ladies coming on and giving us the lowdown on what's going on. Obviously, Dawn was on Kit's show. She has Common Sense Uncensored every Monday. I don't know what time it is, but at any rate, it's on Monday. I know that. I know she's on Rumble. So I'm definitely going to have them on again. And not this coming Monday, but the next Monday after the 4th of July, I will be having Rick Becker on, and we're going to discuss his deal for eliminating property tax and getting it on the ballot. So that will be a week from Monday. So I think it's the 11th, Monday the 11th. So with that, I'm going to sign off here. You guys all have a great 4th of July. Remember what it's truly about. I encourage everybody, no matter where you're at, what event you're at, to take a few minutes, stop, pull the Declaration of Independence out and read it out loud. I know that's what we're going to be doing when we're celebrating the 4th of July and the Independence Day. And so I encourage everybody to do that. So with that, have a good night.